Hello, and welcome back to Studies in Maritime Policy. Today we have a special presentation by my co-host, Dr. Johnson. Welcome to today's show.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm very excited to be talking about a subject that's very near and dear to my heart, cetaceans, or as I like to call them, the dogs of the sea.
We're excited to have you for this two-part show all about whales and maritime policy.
So, it's great to be here, but before I get into cetaceans in maritime policy, I'd like to talk about what are cetaceans, because not all of us have degrees in environmental biology. So the first big question is, what are cetaceans? And to the general public, cetaceans are whales, and dolphin is the order given to that genetic class of species of whales and dolphins. And there are two kinds. There are baleen and there are toothed. And as you might guess, toothed whales have very sharp teeth for hunting and killing their prey, and they eat anything from small fish to even other whales. Baleen whales, however, are some of the largest species on the earth, and instead of having typical teeth like what we would see in a dolphin or an orca, they have a comb-like structure called baleen, hence baleen whales, that they use to filter feed. So they'll go and they'll take a gulp of water, and their food will actually get stuck in their baleen, and then they filter the water out, and then they eat. And so those are baleen whales, and they typically eat plankton and very small fish. To illustrate the difference in the genetic variety of these animals, I have put together some images of baleen and toothed whales to show you this, and they are such amazing animals.
The images are on the screen right here.
So this image is of an orca, otherwise known as a killer whale, and it shows that the orca is actually killing and eating this great white shark, very much living up to its name. And as you've probably guessed, orcas are toothed whales. This image, again with killer whales, actually they are in a pod and they are hunting a fin whale, one of the largest of baleen whales. And they're very coordinated in their attacks, and they will actually herd the animal in the direction that they want to go and almost beach them before they actually kill them. They like to mess with their food before they eat it. This here is a little bit more serene, and it is a pod of common dolphins getting their prey, which are these silver-sided fish, together into as tight of a ball as they possibly can to maximize their catch when they swim through. And they are, as well, toothed whales. This image here is very daunting. As you can see in the bottom left, there is a diver next to the world's largest animal, the blue whale. Now, the blue whale, despite being the world's largest animal, actually eats some of the world's smallest animals, zooplankton and small fish and such. And they are baleen whales, and they filter feed. This image here is of a young bull sperm whale, and as you've probably guessed from the gaping mouth, it is a toothed whale. Now, they are very large, and they are the deepest diving of all of the whales, and they use echolocation in their big hammer-like heads that actually allows them to see so deep, which is why their eyes are comparatively extremely small. This here is a photo of a mother humpback whale and her calf, and they are some of the most prominent of all the baleen whales, as they are all over the world, and most people recognize the humpback as the symbol of many things. In fact, if you're paying close attention during this video, you'll notice that I have on a necklace of a humpback whale. This whale here is a southern right whale, and I only have one right whale in this because they're very much like their northern counterparts, the northern right whales. These whales are one of the most critically endangered whales out there today, because unlike the other baleen whales, they are actually surface feeders. So what they will do is they will open their gaping mouths, which have an odd shape. They kind of curve downwards in a bit of an upside-down spoon fashion, and they will skim the surface of the water to eat their prey, the zooplankton and the small fish, etc. And they are in dire need of our help. This whale here, it's one of the smallest whales. Not the smallest, that title goes to the pygmy sperm whale, but this is a pygmy right whale, and they are also high up on the critically endangered species list, so much so that they used to be in the numbers of upwards of 60,000, and now scientists approximate them to be around only 2,000 strong in certain areas of the world.
They're all so beautiful.
Yes, they are, but they are in danger.
Why are they endangered?
That is a very good question. They are endangered because we have been encroaching upon their habitat. They've been facing extreme habitat loss, be it from shipping industries coming in and saying, oh, this would be a very good place for a port, or other areas like in Argentina, they have wastewater treatment facilities where they dump their gray water into the ocean in one of the largest calving sites for southern right whales. And whales really do like to calve in these protected inlets and bays, so Long Island Sound is one of their favorite places to go, and it's actually been on the rise lately because of the environmental precautions that have been in the area. The area has become much cleaner, and so whales are like, yes, this is a perfect spot for me. And the increased whale traffic and the increased vessel traffic has actually caused numerous problems already. And one of the big things that has been brought forth to help fight endangerment of these whales is the Marine Mammal Protection Act. The Marine Mammal Protection Act was the first act of the United States Congress to call specifically for a totem and taboo style approach to wildlife management, setting aside marine mammals as untouchable and unapproachable. And it is seen as the first federal animal rights legislation in the United States and is overseen by NOAA. And this is a huge step for marine mammals all over the place, not just cetaceans, but pinnipeds and fish and all other species that live in the ocean and call it home, because it really makes a difference as to how we govern them and how we treat them.
How do these policies work?
These policies work because the MMPA, the Marine Mammal Protection Act, is so great. It is so all-encompassing that it has really helped a lot. And they've worked closely with scientists and mariners to set up a body of rules that will allow for protection without encroaching on these vessels and their right to go where they need to go and do what they need to do in order to make money or to have fun in a recreational sense. But the biggest issue is that recreational boaters, drunk Uncle Joe doesn't know his port from his starboard and does not bother to read the Marine Mammal Protection Act to learn the distances you need to keep from these animals. So there are laws in place, and the MMPA requires everyone within the range of the parameters of the Act to follow these guidelines. And these guidelines include observing wild dolphins, porpoises, and seals from a safe distance of at least 50 yards, 150 feet, by land or sea. Observing large whales from a safe distance of at least 100 yards, or 300 feet, by land or sea. Observing whales, dolphins, porpoises, and seals from a safe distance of at least 333 yards by air. And the use of binoculars or telephoto lenses for better views of the mammals, so that you don't have to get too close to them. And you have to limit overall viewing time to no more than 30 minutes. Spend too much time there, and they tend to get very stressed and they will die because of the stress. I like to joke around that they're very much like college students during finals week. They feel like they're going to die because they're so overstressed. And they have to avoid abrupt movements and noises around these marine mammals, avoid separating a mother and calf, and they also have to move away cautiously if behaviors are observed that indicate the animal is stressed. And you want to avoid touching or swimming with marine wildlife. Even if they come close to you, you want to stay as still as possible and not interact with them, because sometimes it's a learning curve. It's like, oh, are you food? Nope, okay, and they'll move on.
I see.
Okay. Another big thing is vessel traffic and spotting policies, and this allows NOAA to be able to really keep track of where these animals are and enforce their policies. So when a boat is within 2 miles of a whale or whales, a spotter should be designated to keep a location on the whales and be responsible for alerting all other vessels in the area as to where this whale is, how many there are if it's a pod, what kind of whale it is if you can identify it, and what behaviors they are doing. And you also have to call the local authorities, be it the Coast Guard or NOAA, a NOAA station, to let them know, hey, there's a pod of humpbacks in Long Island Sound in this location off of this point. And then within half a mile of the whale, you must reduce your speed to less than 7 knots and avoid approaching a whale head on. If a whale sees you coming head on at it, it tends to freak out and will sometimes beach itself in a defensive mode because it gets so stressed because all of a sudden this big foreign object with loud noises is coming straight at it. And any vessel cannot travel faster than 7 knots within 600 feet of these whales as well. and only one boat is allowed to approach within 300 feet of the whales, but they can only remain within 300 feet for no longer than 15 minutes.
Wow. See.
And so, as you can see, I have a chart of whale watching guidelines. So here we have an image on the whale watching guidelines. As you can see, in the center is an image of a whale, and just in front of it is a no head-on approach zone. And this whale watching guideline pamphlet or image is actually extremely important because it gives you the parameters for the max speeds, how fast you can be how fast you can be going, the distance at which you can go those speeds, and it also tells you the duties of the spotter and the lookout who are paying attention to the whale, and what channels they have to be monitoring and making these calls on.
Specifically, how is this affecting the Long Island Sound?
Again, what an excellent question. In the past decade, the number of whale sightings in Long Island Sound, as I said earlier, has increased dramatically. And it's become an issue where, as I said, recreational boaters aren't really paying attention to the laws and the policies that are in place. And a big issue is that NOAA, while it used to be able to really go out and as soon as a whale sighting was made, they'd go out and they'd monitor the area, they'd make sure that all vessels in the area were following the proper rules. Now, with more whale sightings than ever, they don't have the personnel and the resources needed to be able to keep up with all of this to protect them in the way that they want to.
I see.
And the way that the law mandates. And the big issue is, how do we deal with inexperienced boaters who see a whale and go, ooh, I just have to have a selfie with that. And so it has become a big issue with how will we protect them. And especially now, with federal funding to NOAA having been cut by 17%, that's a big chunk.
That's a huge chunk.
Especially for an organization that provides so much to the country in a whole, with be it meteorology, environmental protection, and law enforcement, outside the perimeters of the EPA. And it originally, before the spending cut, or the proposed cut, I should say, it had a current budget of $5.6 billion, which seems like a lot. But they are pretty much all over the place, and they go out within the 200-mile economic zone that we have on our waters. And that is where their parameters lie. They make ocean-going charts for vessels, like at Maritime College, the charts that they use. When they are in American waters, they use NOAA charts, and they have the hand-drawn pamphlets, and they do all of that, and they do the notice to mariners, they do the meteorology, they do all of the things that really make it important for mariners and everyday people to be able to go and say, okay, this is what is happening in the world, this is what I need to know. This is what we need to do in terms of these animals. And so it's still, as I like to joke, a little overwhelming. And it's become such an issue that we really need to not so much update our policies, but update our views on how important these policies are to our nation as a whole.
Definitely. I love the last image. It adds that just the right amount of humor to a very serious situation. And with that, I'll be back after these messages from our sponsors with part 2 of the series. Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
It's been great to be here. Thanks for having me.
No problem.